Hello, Brother Nashi. How are you? Can you please post my own story as hidden identity? So, my brother, my story, it goes on like this. I was a man who was once married to a woman who was really wealthy. So at the time when I met her, me and my friends, we had gone out, and we then ended up going to this other club, and we never got used to like drinking at that club. But on that night, we then thought that it was a wise idea for us to go to that club. Whilst we were at that club, that was when we just met these beautiful ladies that were just hanging out. I then approached one of those ladies that were just hanging out, and after I had approached her, and when I asked for her number, she said that she was willing to give me her numbers because she had seen that I was someone that had a lot of self-confidence. And she said that in most cases, any person that tries to approach her, if it is a man, then the guy wants, if he gets to know that she is a wealthy lady, then the guy will lose all of his confidence. So I then started dating her, and we went on that date. Soon after the date, she invited me to her father's place. I didn't think that it was a wise idea, but I ended up going there anyway. When we went for the introductions, I saw that the father, he was a man who was a really good guy, even though he was really wealthy. He then asked me what I was doing with my life, and I just lied that I was just doing my own thing, being an entrepreneur. And he said that he respected that I had that spirit of being an entrepreneur, and he wanted me to start working for him with immediate effect. And he did this because he knew that one day I was the man that was going to end up being married to his daughter. So he took me in, and when he took me in, he started teaching me almost everything about his business. It then happened, Brother Nash, that on one trip when he was supposed to go and meet up with some of his business clients, and he told me that he wanted to go with me because this was going to be a very long drive. So he wanted someone to be with him in the car. So I then hopped into the car, then we started driving. We drove for many hours, Brother Nashi, without ever stopping. We only stopped once we had reached this other village, and when we entered into that village, it was almost in the middle of the night when we entered into that village. And he said that there was another project that he wanted to start there because this village, it is close to this other big river. So he was like saying that I want to show you this project that I want to start. I want to raise money so that I can build a big dam, and out of that dam that I would have built, then we will be able to generate some electricity using the flow of that big river. So when we entered into that village, we then headed up for this other house. When we went to that house, my brother, with the way that my father-in-law was rich, I could not even understand what he was doing at this poor man's house. But when he got off from his car, I then knew exactly what was going on. We had visited a voodoo priest house, because when he climbed out of the car, he then removed his shoes as well as folding these trousers so that they can reach the knee height. And he told me that I was supposed to do the same, and whatever that was going to happen, I was never supposed to tell anyone, because this was what men do. This is what he told me. He said that this is what men do. Men, they look for charms so as to strengthen their several businesses. We then went into that priest's compound. Whilst we were inside that priest compound, we were told by his children that he was still at the river. This man, what he will do is that he would come in, he would go and he will start communicating with some river gods, and then the river gods will tell him how he was supposed to help those that would come to him looking for fortune as well as blessings and charms to expand their businesses. So we waited the first day. Then on the next day, when it was in the afternoon, that was when that old man came. This man, Brother Nashi, when I was even looking at him, he was not a man whereby you could actually think that he was a priest. He was just someone who was just poor. Even if you were to pass him by, you will just think that this one is one of those poor people that they do not even know what to do with their life. But this man, he was so much respected by my own father-in-law, so much that I saw him kissing the feet of this voodoo priest, because from this priest, that was where all of his wealth came from. Brother Nashi, my father-in-law directed me on everything that he wanted me to do. We then entered into one of the rooms that we were supposed to start consulting in. When we were in that room, that was when that priest looked at me and he said that this son of yours, I can see that he does not have the heart of a lion. So what was supposed to happen to me was that I was supposed to be strengthened, and when I would be strengthened, then whatever that I was going to see this priest doing to my boss, it will not terrify me. Then that priest, what he did, Brother Nash, is that he took this other big cup. This cup, it was made out of a skeleton. I don't know if this skeleton was real or not, but this is what I was told, that this skeleton, it was a real skeleton that belonged to someone who had passed away. This man that had passed away, he was owing this voodoo priest some money after he had came to that shrine to perform some money-making rituals, and after he had failed to repay back some of the things that he was told to bring, then that voodoo priest ended up destroying him as well as destroying his family. My brother, when I was told this backstory, I really felt terrified about everything that I was doing, even though I thought of running away. But Brother Nashi, the thought of losing all of those riches, it was just too much for me, because my father-in-law, he had promised me a lot if I was going to get married to his daughter, and I just stayed there whilst my father-in-law was performing those rituals that he was performing. In that instance, he then took out this other cooler box that he had in his car. One of that priest's assistants was the one who went and then took that cooler box. This cooler box, Brother Nashi, it was full of blood, and I do not know even up today if this blood, if it was human blood or if it was animal blood. This blood that was inside that cooler box, it was then poured on top of one of the idols that was there on that shrine. After that, my boss then told me that I had to join this cult so that he can give me more wealth, and I ended up joining that cult. So at that time, when I was still like in love with his daughter, there was no sacrifice that was ever required from me at all. It was just a matter of me like performing some prayers and having a small altar. It was just a small altar which I could even, it was just a small altar that was given to me, and I will just pray whilst I was holding that altar. Sometimes I will stop my car by the side of the road, then I'll start praying using some ancient language. Then my brother, after I had gotten married to his daughter, I then started cheating on his daughter because we were having like a lot of problems. The woman that I was married to, because of she had grown up in that environment whereby she was the one who used to control everyone. When we were now staying as husband and wife, when I would request for her to do some things for me, she will then deny me, and she'll say that she cannot do that for me. And sometimes she would actually ask her father if what I would have asked her to do for me, if it was something that he asked from his own wife, who was her mother. So this was really bad for me, and I didn't want to get out of this marriage because I was surviving through her. I was making money because of her. Then my brother, I started cheating on my wife with one of her cousin sisters. All along I knew that her cousin sister was in love with me. Then I approached her. After I had approached her, she never said no. Then we started sleeping together. So when people are in love, usually you start doing crazy stuff. This cousin sister of hers, she was so much in love with me, and each and every time that we would be sleeping at a hotel, what she will do is that she would take some videos of us making love, because she used to say that whenever she was alone, she would want to think of the memories when she would be watching the videos of me and her as we would be making love. And I was like, that is fair enough. Then she kept those videos. I don't know how those videos ended up in my wife's phone. One day when I was returning back from the office, I then saw that she had placed a suitcase on the front door. So I thought that maybe she had planned a vacation for us because she was someone who loved traveling a lot. But when I got into the house, I saw that her father was there as well as her mother and some of her relatives, and they just kicked me out of the house with nothing, my brother. And if you are someone that has lived a life whereby you are just enjoying money, even you do not work hard for that money, then when you are kicked out of that lifestyle, things really become difficult for you. That is what happened to me at that time. One moment I was a rich guy married to a wealthy woman. The next thing, I was on the street contacting some of my closet friends so that I can just sleep over at their place. Life became so difficult. Well, as a man who knew what was their source of wealth, I then planned and I went on a trip. I visited that priest, but when I visited that priest, he then said that my father-in-law had called him, and my father-in-law had told him that if I was ever going to come to him, he should not assist me. But he then said that since I wanted to be rich, just like the way that he had made my father-in-law to become rich, he was not going to deny me that simply because I had fallen out of my father-in-law's grace, he was going to help me anyway. He ended up helping me by making me to contact one of his other friends. This friend of his was staying in another village. At that time, my brother, I had already paid so much for the consultation fee. I didn't have any money at all to start traveling, but I was tired of poverty. I then started walking from village to village. I would walk throughout the day. Then when it would be sunset, then I would look for a house whereby I would ask those people to give me just an accommodation for a single night. A lot of people along the way, they would give me food because I had came up with this other story whereby I was lying that I never knew my father. So my mother, she was lying on her deathbed, so she had directed me where I could actually find my father, and my father was like in the next village. So people, when I would tell them this story, they would believe me and they would feel so sorry for me. So they would give me some food as well as a place to stay. I walked for days and days, and I finally arrived at that the other priest shrine. When I arrived at this shrine, I saw that the shrines, they were quite similar, just that they used different gods. Like this priest that ended up making me to do those money-making rituals, he does not go to the river to get the charms. He just gets those charms straight from the gods that stays in the graveyards. That is where we ended up going into the graveyards at night and performing those rituals. I was told from the beginning of me performing these rituals that there was a snake. This snake, it was going to be given to me, and regularly this snake will come back and it will be staying at the shrine. So this snake, it survives by human blood. So I had to do what I had to do, and I had to sacrifice my family. And when I started sacrificing my family in the first year, there were 2 people that were required, but I could not let 2 of my family members die in a single year because I didn't want anyone to suspect that I was someone who was into these rituals. So what I did is that I thought that I would be able to negotiate with that priest, but unfortunately he then passed away. After he had passed away, then his own son was the one who became a priest in his own place. And when I returned back, this was after I had started seeing that snake. Usually the way that I would see this snake, when I will be driving, I'll see this snake coming out of the steering wheel, and it was quite scary for me. So I returned back, and when I returned back to that shrine, that was when I was told that I had already broken the oath, and now that the priest, the father of that priest who was assisting me, had passed away, then he could not go back into the past so as to amend the contract. The contract that I had signed with his father's shrine was such that I was supposed to sacrifice 2 of my family members in a single year. Then I had to stay for a long time before the snake will demand more blood from me. He then said that since you have failed to respect the contract, then you are supposed to sacrifice the rest of your siblings. My brother, there was no more turning back. I was already knee deep into this thing because I had heard stories of other people that had gone to do these rituals, and after doing these rituals, then they ended up losing their mind. Since I was like knee deep in this river that was full of mud that I could not even swim out of, I then thought that it was far much better to sacrifice the rest of my siblings. So amongst my siblings, 3 of them, Brother Nashi, they have already died, and their blood have been harvested by that priest, the son of that priest who once helped me. The blood, they just collect it, and there is a jar there. It is more like a big clay pot that is always kept at that shrine that is full of blood. It never runs dry. So I lost 3 of my siblings, and 2 of them, they have not yet passed away because it is not yet their time. They are still waiting for their time so that they can be sacrificed. The money that I have, Brother Nashi, to tell you that I enjoy any single day of my life, I do not enjoy at all. You can see me like driving a very big car, but I am not enjoying life at all. The only thing that I do is that when I feel so much stressed, I just spend money, and I spend a lot of money, especially on women, so as to remove the stress that I will be feeling at that time. And when I like drink and when I overdose on any substance that I will be taking, I will feel much better. But when tomorrow come, I will know that reality will be waiting for me. This is the life that I chose, and this is the life that I am living.